Hey folks, Kevin the editor here. This is the first part of several from Tuesday night's candidate forum for the May 21st, 2024 primary election. The event hosted by the Polk County Chamber of Commerce featured the county commission candidates from District 1 and District 3, plus a school board and coroner's candidate. The Chamber of Commerce is hosting a second forum on Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Rockmart Theatre for those who missed this one in person. Due to the 2+ hour length of this forum, I have broken it up into chunks for viewing. This first part is only District 1 candidates through about the first 30 minutes of the event. Grab a beverage, get comfy, and don't feel bad for hitting pause for bathroom break's sake. I'm Kevin the editor. I'll holler at you in the next one.
Good evening, and welcome to the Polk County Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. We're thrilled to have each and every one of you here today as we come together to engage in meaningful dialogue about the future of our county. To our esteemed candidates, thank you for your dedication to public service and for stepping forward to offer your leadership to our community. You've already demonstrated your commitment to the well-being of our community. To our valued audience members, thank you for joining us today and for your interest in the democratic process. Your participation is crucial in shaping the future. The Polk County Elections Office has provided some grab-and-go informational cards in the lobby should you need general voter information. And as a reminder, this is for the May 21st general primary election. The ground rules are as follows. All participants, including candidates, moderators, and audience members, must conduct themselves with respect and civility at all times. Candidates must adhere to 2 minutes or less for their responses to questions. This is to ensure fairness and efficiency. There will be an amber light to signal 1 minute left and a red light to signal the conclusion of your time. Critiques of ideas and policies are welcomed. However, personal attacks, insults, or derogatory remarks against other candidates or individuals will not be tolerated. Responses should remain focused on issues relevant to the role or office being sought. Candidates should provide accurate and truthful information to the best of their knowledge. The Chamber of Commerce is proud to host this event as a nonpartisan organization. The Polk County Chamber of Commerce does not endorse nor favor any candidate running for office. The forum dates were selected without input from any candidate, and all candidates were given today's questions this morning via email. These same questions and any additional screened questions will be relayed to candidates the morning of April 25th for the Rockmart Candidate Forum. Thank you to the Cedartown Performing Arts Center for hosting the April 23rd Candidate Forum, and to the Rockmart Theatre for hosting the April 25th Candidate Forum. Tonight's questions will provide a general overview on our candidates' visions for our community. We'll begin with our County Commission candidates for District 1. The candidates include incumbent Jordan Hubbard, James Vines, Deborah Connelly, and Michael Gravett. And we'll go ahead and invite Jordan Hubbard up to the podium.
No pressure.
None at all. What inspired you to run for county commissioner?
2 minutes, huh? So I've told this story a few times. I remember being in middle school. We got to go see Bill Cummins in the state capitol. And I got to meet people like Bill Cummins and Senator Dean. And I thought, those are the folks that show up. They were at every event in Polk County. They worked real hard for Polk County. They brought back a ton of stuff to Polk County. As a kid, seeing that, dude, I still remember it vividly when we had the option to go. My mom took me to Holmes Clothing, and I still got my American flag tie that she bought for me, and I was so excited to wear that day. And I always thought that was a cool moment. So my interest in politics and government was there. And then when I got to high school, I met Hal Floyd and Ricky Inslee, the Polk County Youth Leadership when I was in 10th grade. And I remember that program and thinking, dude, I could do something with my life, And by that point, to the end of my high school career, I had so many teachers that had encouraged me to study. The only thing I've ever wanted to do in life was be an educator. When I graduated in 2006, went off to college in 2010, when I got out of school, man, there was no teaching job. So I literally had to come up with things to do for a living for quite some time before I got in the educational realm. But the one thing I won't ever forget I did, I called Miss Brumby at the high school. My senior night for honors night, they give out scholarships. And I was amazed at how many people invested money in me and time, that I made it a point that I said, you know what, one day when I can, I'm too going to give back. Since then, me and my wife started a scholarship, and we've given every penny back that people invested in me when I was a kid, because that to me is service. So if I have the ability to serve, I'm going to do it. I was a city commissioner for 2 terms before we moved into the county. My entire 20s was spent in civic service, from chamber days to DCA, Downtown Cedartown Association, to Government Affairs Committee under GMA, to later running for city commission, and I had the same aspect. Again, if I have the ability to serve, I'm going to do anything I can for the youth of Polk County. And the one thing we haven't done well in America is invest forward. And again, that's the one thing I want to make sure that we're doing on a regular basis, is investing back in our youth, because we owe it to them to make the best decisions possible.
Thank you, Jordan.
Is that a lot for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll invite James Vines to the podium. And we'll continue with the same question. What inspired you to run for county commissioner?
Well, I was brought up over here in northwest Georgia on a small farm. I spent most of my life in service to others. My father was a minister here at several local churches, and we've always endeavored to come out and help the community. I joined the U.S. military when I turned 18 and spent 5 years, give or take, active service. Was in the First Gulf War, came back, joined the reserves, went to college, and entered back into public service and career law enforcement. And now that I'm retired, I own a small business here, and I think giving back to the community is one of the highest forms of service to your fellow man. I was always taught to help others out and to look for ways to make the place that you live a better place to be. So if I'm elected, I look to bring the hard work ethic and a positive attitude to bring in new solutions to some of the problems that we have in the county, and hope I can be of help to anyone who needs it.
Thank you. Ms. Deborah Connelly. What inspired you to run for county commissioner?
Well, my husband passed away in 2018, and I started to have to do things for myself. And so one of the things I did, I had to, make sure my property taxes were all paid up and make sure that, things were just running like they should. And I had no experience in that other than corporate. I worked at Fannie Mae in Washington, D.C. for 25 years. And so I had finance, I had tax, and I had some agricultural background because I did farming for a while. So I started asking questions around the county about how property values are done and so forth. And so, the answers that I was getting, I was like, really? I think I can help them. I think I can show them ways that, things could be maybe done differently, and just provide service to them, because I think that's what you should do once you're retired and have the time to serve your community. You should do it. And if you have the background to do certain things, like I have the background of taxes and finance, and those give me the ability to know things about real estate and things like that. So I just think it's a good fit for a retired person that has time on their hands to serve the community and just help the departments within the county if they need it, and support them all you can. I just think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Deb. Michael Gravett. What inspired you to run for county commissioner?
So I have a service heart. I've served the community for, since I've been out of high school. I served on several many boards. I served my church, and I tell you, I served in a way that probably there ain't many people behind me that could say they served in. I served Polk County government for about 6 years. Served Paulding County government for about 9 years. I got nearly 15 years experience serving both counties. And so time took me a different direction. And I tell you, not being here every day made me want to continue my serviceship here in Polk County. I'm constantly striving to help and do better for the community. I'm on several different boards. I could go CASA, Keep Polk Beautiful, the Optimist Club, And so with that being said, I feel like I bring a unique perspective to the board with my background and in my experience. I've got about 25 years experience in the civil industry. Like I said, 16 years of it here at Polk County. And I just feel like I can take my knowledge and experience and bring it right back to where I started.
Thank you. This question goes hand in hand with the previous question. What experience and skills do you possess that make you qualified to serve as county commissioner? We'll start with Jordan Hubbard.
The warm-up questions out of the way. Look, I have, my background is history and political science. I graduated with a bachelor's in history and political science, and then later I added a master's in history. Later added a master's in political science because the one thing I liked more than anything else was teaching government to youth. I'd already started teaching dual enrollment history for Polk School District, and I was encouraged to go back, and I'm glad I did, for the sole fact that encouraging kids to be a part of government is very important, because we talk about it all the time, that, you know, we've got to do more, we've got to be active. People want to be active, but then sometimes getting to do it is the hard part. And not to say that adults can't show up, they will and they can, but the one thing that we do on a regular basis is not necessarily taking care of the youth, right? So when we're making decisions, we are looking at that point of time, which is important, but we also need to be looking to the future, right? So I encourage my classes to be civically engaged. You see probably a few of them out there tonight because it's the end of the semester and they want some points for their final grade, so they've shown up, but you know what? They didn't have to, they chose to be here, which to me gives me hope for Polk County. Anytime anybody bashes Polk County, I have to take a deep breath, because if you haven't worked with the youth of Polk County, you should, because it would definitely encourage you for the future that we've got. My hope is I can bring people together. I've been on the city commission for 2 terms before we moved to the county. I'm very active still, understanding education, understanding political science and how it interacts with government, and trying to encourage people to be involved in that system, because at this point, we're all competing for the same dollars in Northwest Georgia and the country, and we've got to be very energetic on trying to figure out solutions for the future, because everybody's competing for the same companies. They're all looking to see what incentives that we can bring to them, and we've got to be thinking out of the box to make sure we can protect ourselves, but also expand as we go forward.
Thank you. James Vines.
As I said on the opening, I was raised on a small farm. I've learned agriculture. In the military, I was an industrial electrician and a non-commissioned officer. In the reserves, I was an industrial aircraft mechanic and also an instructor and a second-class petty officer, posted as sergeant in the Army, which is a senior non-commissioned officer. I've been an instructor to people. I've led crews of men and women working on aircraft. I spend a lot of time in public safety and law enforcement. I've got a broad spectrum of training in there, from investigations to interpersonal communications. I've got an education, a bachelor's in criminal justice with a master's in criminal justice and concentration in emergency management. These skills, plus I'm currently a small business owner and run a rental property business, will give me a broad base to work on the county commission as far as financial planning, working with local businesses and local community leaders to develop plans for expansion of government, expansion of infrastructure, and ability to understand what people are going through with the economy the way it is and with prices going up and inflation. I think that these will benefit me in being a county commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Connelly.
Like I said, I worked at Fannie Mae for 25 years, and that was in the finance world. And when I'm 66 years old today, so when I was growing up, the finance world was evolving. I mean, we were doing mortgage-backed securities for the first time, certain things that we've never done before. So I think that the ability to evaluate, when to lend money, when not to lend money, when to borrow money, things like that for the city, or for the county to help them with their budgeting. I'm excellent with doing budgets, and things like that will really be helpful in my experience that I've had in the past in dealing with the commissioner position, because it all boils down to money. And that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, and whether we have enough or whether we don't have enough. And then I progressed into doing taxes, and I have a tax business, and that certainly is very helpful in knowing what tax laws and so forth will, matter in your decision that you may or may not make. And that's what I currently do right now. I have a tax business. And then the agricultural world that I went into for about 18 years, that's just really good for the community and for the farmers of Polk County, because we really need to see a more robust farming community in our county. It's a very hard thing to do, and with the economy that we have nowadays, you can hardly do it and make any money on it because everything is just so expensive. So, but if I was able to serve as the commissioner, I would really want to focus on that area and really help the farmers more, because I really know how bad they really need that help.
Thank you, Deb. Michael Gravett.
So yes, I have about 25 years of proven experience. I have nearly 15 years of experience in local government. That's working with the Department of Budgets, day-to-day operations, answering the hard questions from the citizens about why this or why that. My experience speaks for itself. During my tenure at Paulding County, my team completed $50 million in capital improvement projects. During my tenure at Polk County, we made great strides improving the county's road infrastructure. And today, the Public Works team continues to make even greater strides with their constant improvements. Even though I'm no longer guiding that ship, I see the fruits of their labor. And as I drive around the county, I'll see it doesn't go unnoticed. But I'll tell you, I bring a team-minded, putting others first approach. I have a great working knowledge of Polk County, and I understand how Polk County operates. I have a skill set to bring people together and the ability to see both sides of the coin, rather than seeing it just through Michael Gravett's eyes. I bring the ability to compromise, work together for the betterment of Polk County. The experience that I bring to the table, like I've mentioned before, is very unique. I've been in the trenches with Polk County, with Paulding County. I've felt the grind, so I know how to take something or take nothing and turn it into something. So with that, that's what I feel like I'm qualified.
Thank you. Our next question for District 1. How do you plan to address the most pressing issues facing our county, such as infrastructure, economic development, and services provided? We'll start with Jordan Hubbard.
I'm gonna pick up where I left off in the last one, and I started getting rolling, and that thing scares me. When talking about making decisions, and I was telling you we were working on, or we all are competing for the same industry out there. This goes along right with that question. The thing is, I remember 15 years ago or so, we were talking about connecting infrastructures and what we can do as a county together to lure people here. Because again, if we want long-term investment, we're gonna have to figure out some things. And the thing about industry, if you want to grow, we got to have access to infrastructure. So it's one of those decisions as Polk Countyans, we have to decide if that's the best interest for us. Should we invest in that moving forward? Because again, if we want it and we want to get to that level, we've got to start now, because every year, that was 15 years ago, every year since then, think about how expensive it's gotten to compete, right? Because we don't have that access to infrastructure. So do we want to make the investment now? Or are we going to wait and kick the can down the road a little longer, where the cost is going to continuously rise? I think the good thing too, though, we are in a segment that feels that way, and I hope we're getting back to it, is where we can start working together. A long time ago, we did intergovernmental meetings where the cities, right, and the county met together so we could talk about progress. That way we're all on the same page, right? Because a lot of times, everybody's got something going on, but if we're not communicating, we can't help each other. Because a win for Rockmart's a win for Cedartown, a win for Cedartown's a win for Rockmart. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. James Vines.
I think one of the biggest things that has been an impediment to growth in this county is communication. I've noticed in the past that a lot of things that have gone on have not been well communicated to the public at large. And one of the things that I want to do if I get in as a commissioner is see that every voting citizen is made well aware of what their government's doing, that they're given advance notice, and that they're aware of how we're spending their money and what projects we're planning. If people want permits for building, projects coming in like new subdivisions, road development, looking at the ordinances that we currently have to see if they need to be updated or adjusted to meet the expansion and growth we have in the county. Looking at finding new ways to get people to come in, such as tax breaks. Now, I know some people say, well, I pay a lot of taxes. Well, to get new people to come in and invest lots of money, you have to make it attractive to them. So in order to do that, you're going to have to give them a reason to come to Polk County. That will also dovetail in with services that we provide, because if a business comes in here and sets up shop and spends $150 million to develop a factory or service, they hire people. And those people are going to have high-paying jobs, and they're going to pay more taxes. And that tax revenue can be used to increase the services that we have in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Connelly. Just to repeat the question for everybody in the audience as well, how do you plan to address the most pressing issues facing our county, such as infrastructure, economic development, and services provided?
Well, I agree with James on the communication part of it. This is a hard question for me to answer because I'm not involved in the county, and I don't know, I've seen the budget, but that's all I've really seen. And so we need to make the citizens of Polk County know more about, number one, what we can do, what we need to do, and what we are going to do, okay? Because you hear things, you hear that, certain things really need to be fixed, certain things really need to be updated, but, I don't know that because I've never, heard it from Polk County. So first we would have to get a list and see what kind of infrastructure really is suffering in the county. And that would be the first priority, because it's like, I think Jordan said, it's very expensive. The more you go out there, the more you leave it into the future, the more expensive it's going to take for you to fix it. And there would probably be a point of we just couldn't do it because you just couldn't afford to fix it. And then the other area is services. I think that Polk County really deserves a robust fire department with staffed fire department, more than 3 people in stations throughout the county so that we can service our county better on fire situations. And that would be my first priority, to look at something like that, because it not only helps the county, it helps you as a homeowner, it will help you on your homeowner's rates, because a county that doesn't have a permanent location for their fire departments and relies on volunteer fire departments, you will pay more for homeowners insurance, because that's just a fact. And so I'm big on services. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Mike Gravett.
So we talk about growth, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about needs, we talk about service. One thing Polk County's got to get good at is providing great service for what they already provide. We got to get the services that we provide top notch now before we add new services. I'm in agreement with most of these guys out here.
There are definitely services needed. But I feel like we need to get what we have already offered to the citizens. We need to get them 100% in order. But we talk about infrastructure and funding and different things like that, but it's inevitable. Growth is coming. We all know that. One thing that I would like to see is, as these developers, as these folks come into our county and try to develop property, I think we need to put the burden on those guys to help fit the bill for what they're wanting to do. In other words, if there's needs for sewer infrastructure or needs for water infrastructure or whatever the case may be, well, we'll let them come in here and build if that's what they want to do. But they're going to help us with our infrastructure. We're going to put that burden on the developer and get it off the taxpayers. That's pretty normal around. So, you know, if they're building a whatever type building that's coming in and there's a weight restricted bridge, then they need to partner with Polk County to either rebuild a bridge or come up with some type of mechanism to get them to where they're going to help with that cost. But I'm a firm believer, and I know growth is coming. I call myself all the time an old school progressive, which means I'm not naive enough to think that growth's not coming, but I'm also old school enough to know that we need to control it in a way that benefits Polk County and Polk County only. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, how do you plan to foster collaboration and communication between the counties, cities, and community organizations and its citizens? Sorry, Jordan, I'm actually going to rotate this one around now. We'll begin with James Vines. Thank you, sorry about that.
The previous commissioner, Scotty Tillery, God rest his soul, went to Washington. He obtained grants for the county. The county commission already is involved in procuring money and working across with the cities like Rockmart, Aaron, and Cedartown. We have an interchange agreement between the three for tax sharing of profits from various sources. We also have places like One Door Polk and Mosaic House that work with the county. They provide mental health and drug treatment services. People already meet with them. There are various boards that people sit on. And I plan to continue to engage in that, to bring my law enforcement experience into that area of dealing with people that are poor or mentally ill, and to use my management experience to work with the city and county government to bridge the gaps between us and come to an agreement on various things, like the distribution of funds, use of infrastructure, and development of a better fire and public safety system for Polk County. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Debbie?
This is a good question because we have a lot of organizations in Polk County. I can't name them all to you because there's just too many to name, but they all seem to go off and do their thing, and you hear about it sometimes, maybe, that they're gonna have a meeting or something, but not, it's not a steady thing. You can't depend on a source to go to. You don't know really who to ask about the association. So I think it's something that maybe the county commissioners or someone in the county commissioner's office could do, and it would be probably a county commissioner that would do it, is get together with all the communities and organizations and plan out so that we don't overlap and do a lot of organizations that do the same thing in Polk County, so that we can make sure we service more people in the county and that the organization is on track, and that if there's any overlap in any of the organizations, we can either, take care of that or change it or whatever it needs. But it needs they need some kind of direction or some kind of person that will lead them and make sure that everyone knows what the other person is doing, is what I think would help that problem.
Thank you. Mr. Gravett?
I think everybody's been in my notes. One thing I've told everybody since I jumped into this thing is one thing I want to do, and I've heard it's going to be difficult to do, but one thing I want to do is create, and we'll call it for right now, an intergovernmental committee. What that committee would be comprised of, it would be comprised of all three cities, the county, the school board, and the water authority. I feel like we're all in this thing together, and so with that being said, we all need to know what's going on countywide. Everything inside Polk County boundaries, we all need to know. I would say a quarterly meeting, a monthly meeting, to get it started. But I feel like if each team would bring their issues to the table collaboratively, we can work out issues. It's a team effort. I've said it. I mean, I've told you that's my whole thing. Is I'm very team minded. But I feel like if you got the players to the table, then anything can be accomplished. So creating a committee, finding out who's going to sit on that committee, everybody meeting, commissioners, county man. I'm not saying you got to have all the boards, but a delegate from each committee with the city and county managers, all three cities, Rockmart, Cedartown, Ariton, School Board, and the Water Authority, get us together, get us on the same page. And I think once we all know what each other's doing, it will definitely help promote Polk County and move us forward.
Thank you. Jordan?
Apparently I stole my thunder on the last question, talking about the intergovernmental committee that we need to bring back. I agree. If we can get everybody at the table, cities, counties, school board, like we used to, I think that would help us. Not long, we went to the state capitol, and we were talking back and forth with the state rep and the state senator, and all of a sudden they were talking about a project coming to Polk County, or looking at Polk County, and we were like, repeat that again? And again, it tells you that it's not that we're bad, right, or one entity is bad over the other. What it shows you, though, is our government, to a degree, is fragmented, right? So everybody's doing their own thing, and communication is lacking. So I think bringing that committee back together would help make sure that we can segue all of that, because again, like I said earlier, a win for Rockmart is a win for all of us, a win for Cedartown is a win for all of us, and a win for Ariton is a win for all of us, right? So bringing those together, I think, is important, and that's the government side. But too, I think people forget. I mean, most of the good work that's done, a lot of times the commissioners get credit for things that they shouldn't, right? It's the employees and the department heads that make those places successful. The reason our departments are successful is because we've got great department heads that work really hard and advocate for their employees. That's important. But two, we're lucky in Polk County that we've got civic organizations out there that work every day. If you've never met Rhonda Hewer, right, or Karen Nissen, or Patty Rogers, those three ladies alone could run this county, and they do it civically. So bringing those people into the fold, too, is always a win, because we're better for folks like that who get involved civically.
Thank you.
That concludes part 1 of the Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. Make sure to tune in for part 2 through more.